Have you ever known someone who just disappeared? Not dramatically, not after an argument, just slowly, quietly, without a trace. They stopped replying, they stopped showing up, and one day they were simply gone, as if they had dissolved into thin air. You scroll through old messages, photos, conversations, trying to pinpoint the moment it all shifted, but there isn't one. There's no single explosion, only a quiet erosion, a fading presence, a silence that grew so slowly it almost felt natural. This isn't ghosting in the casual, modern sense. It's something older, deeper. It's the moment when the soul finally whispers, "I can't keep explaining myself to those who don't really see me." Some people disappear not to be mysterious, but because they've been transparent for too long. When people vanish without a word, it's rarely because they stopped caring. More often, it's because they cared too deeply, for too long, without that care being returned. They were the listener, the peacemaker, the one who held everyone's emotions together, even when their own were falling apart. They stayed when others left, they gave when no one asked, and they tried to be strong long after their strength was gone. And one day, something inside them simply runs out. There's no fight left to give. So instead of arguing, they retreat. Instead of explaining, they go quiet. Because sometimes, silence hurts less than trying to be understood by people who never really listened. To vanish is not to give up. It's to reclaim a small piece of control. It's choosing peace over exhaustion and solitude over the endless work of proving your pain to those who never noticed it. Psychologists call this phenomenon dissociative withdrawal. It's when emotional fatigue becomes so heavy that the mind begins to shut down connections, not out of cruelty, but out of self-preservation. The body stays, the voice still answers, but emotionally, they begin to fade. It's not that they stop loving, it's that they run out of the energy it takes to maintain love unreciprocated. These people often grew up managing chaos. They learned to sense tension before words were spoken, to soothe others, to fix moods, to predict danger. In homes where silence meant safety, they adapted. They learned that being invisible could keep the peace. So when adulthood repeats that same emotional imbalance, when friends, partners, or family demand, without giving, their instinct isn't to argue or confront, it's to disappear. It looks like indifference, but it's really exhaustion. It looks like apathy, but it's actually protection. And in their absence, people might call them cold or detached, but deep down, they're not frozen, they're recovering. Society worships closure. We crave final messages, last words, neat endings tied with emotional clarity. But not everyone has the strength to deliver those tidy conclusions. For some, the idea of explaining their pain again, of defending their boundaries one more time, feels unbearable. Some people vanish not to punish others, but to preserve what little is left of themselves. They have explained themselves so many times that words have lost meaning. So instead of another long conversation that leads nowhere, they choose silence. Because silence says what explanations cannot. It says, "I've said enough. I've tried enough. I've felt enough." It's a form of surrender, not to weakness, but to truth. Because sometimes, walking away without a word is the loudest sentence you'll ever speak. But disappearing isn't peaceful at first. It's quiet, yes, but that quiet can echo. You lose others, but you also lose a version of yourself, the one who always tried, who always stayed. You begin to miss even the chaos, because at least the chaos made you feel connected. There's a strange kind of grief that comes with letting go, not just of people, but of the role you played in their lives. And yet, somewhere in that emptiness, something new begins to grow. In the silence, you start to hear your own voice again. You notice your needs, your limits. The weight you carried for so long begins to lift, slowly, quietly, breath by breath. You begin to realize that maybe disappearing wasn't running away. Maybe it was the first step toward coming home, to yourself. So if someone vanished from your life, try to look beyond the silence. Maybe they weren't heartless. Maybe they were just heart-tired. Not everyone who disappears is avoiding you. Some are simply protecting what's left of their peace. And if you're the one who disappeared, forgive yourself. Truly, you're not broken. You're learning boundaries that no one ever taught you were allowed to exist. You're learning that peace sometimes begins with absence. Sometimes silence isn't avoidance, it's wisdom. Sometimes distance isn't rejection, it's protection. And sometimes vanishing isn't the end of connection, it's the beginning of self-respect. Because in the quiet, you finally remember, you don't owe anyone your energy, your explanations, or your presence. Especially those who never noticed when it was fading away. So maybe disappearing wasn't a goodbye. Maybe it was a return to the parts of yourself that the noise had buried for too long. Maybe disappearing isn't about leaving at all. Maybe it's about returning to the parts of yourself you abandoned trying to be understood. If this story spoke to you, take a moment before you scroll away, because silence isn't just absence, it's connection waiting to be heard. Tell me in the comments, have you ever been the one who disappeared, or the one left wondering why someone did? Your story might be the mirror someone else needs to find peace. And if you'd like to keep exploring the quiet corners of human emotion, follow for more real-life pills. There's always more to uncover about the minds that feel deeply and the hearts that love quietly. Because sometimes, understanding isn't found in noise, but in the spaces between words.